You guys come to see us battle rap?
So, welcome to Shop Talk, Shop Talk area. Sorry, some of you heard this before, but it's a project of the In Kitchen, which is a media conglomerate of huge proportions. No, it's free information at inkitchen.com. And our sponsors, Hanes Alternative Apparel, Hirsch Solutions, and ThreadX. And I'm Rick Roth. I'm one of the In Kitchen guys. And this is my friend Brett Bowden. We're going to talk a little bit about customer service.
You have a beer in your hand. Sure.
So we're going to have a little bit of a talk. We are not really like a professional dog and pony speaker thing going on. So we've got people that do this day in, day out. Brett has his own shop, so he's going to talk from personal experience, not from experience of 30 years ago or that was stolen from his consultant customers. So if any of you saw a schedule in your program, it totally changed to this kind of speaker that does it every day. And so that meant for a little change. And sorry if you were thrown off by that. All right, Brett, take it away.
Okay, is it my turn? Hey, guys. It is a pleasure to be with all of you today here at the Shop Talks booth. This is a cool deal that ISS has provided this space for us to hang out and talk and become best friends. And some of us will become mortal enemies by the end of this.
Happy hours at 4.
Awesome. All right. Cool. So, yeah, I'm going to talk about customer service. It's something that we all do, and it's something that is the first problem in most of our print shops. Because this is where everything comes in the door. Casey's right there. We were looking for you earlier. Okay. So anyways, this is where everything can completely start in a downward spiral is as soon as a customer calls you, right? And I think it's interesting because I attribute, like, you remember when we were kids and we played the game telephone or whatever, and someone said a word and you went through the circle of people, and then the last person said the word and it was a completely different word, you know, because either you didn't hear the person right, or there's one person that thinks they're really funny and they change the word to something inappropriate or whatever. So, right, this is the same thing as your print shop. Customer calls, they say, I want red ink on a black shirt. We order red shirts instead of black shirts because someone's dyslexic and they put the order in wrong. And then it goes to the art department, and the art department suddenly is like designing purple designs on a green shirt. Like every step of this process, there's so much room for error. And by the time we actually deliver the product, we're delivering something completely different than what they ever expected. They end up with a bunch of brown sweatpants, and they never, they ordered T-shirts or something, right? So what we've had to work really, really hard on is like writing stuff down and communicating well. But so we wrote like a little guide that says, hey, this is how you do your job. Oh yeah, some people call them standard operating procedures. Anyways, this is fun. Okay, so we write down all this stuff, right? And we want to be like as articulate as we possibly can throughout the whole process. And if we can start with like really simple things like customers coming to you to order something because they think that you're an expert, whether you are or not, right? Some of us are definitely not experts around here, but the customer expects that you know more about making T-shirts than they do, and you probably should. So if you can like start the process off by making the decision for the customer by saying like, hey, they want a soft shirt, they want a cool shirt, and you just tell them, okay, this is the shirt we use, right? Don't send them a link to Sanmar and expect them to pick the perfect garment, right? They're going to go pick the garment that makes the least sense to print on, it's not even made of cotton, it has polyester in it, and No one wants polyester shirts. Those are for runners. Does anyone here like running?
I like running.
And he's literally wearing a polyester shirt. The one person in the room
Point
that
proven.
hates me the most right now is that guy. So anyways, if we can guide the customer from the very beginning, you see their design, you know the shirt that it's going to look good on, help them be successful by choosing the shirt for them, help them end up with a really great product at the end of the game, because when you let them start throwing darts at the dartboard and they miss and they grab, shirts that aren't going to print well, they're not going to look good with their design, then it goes to the art department. The art department does the best they can, and it goes into production, and production's trying to figure out how they're going to print this shirt, right? I love Bella Canvas, but every month they come out with a brand new shirt that none of us know how to print on, right? That's the hardest thing about being a screen printer today, is trying to figure out how to print on half of the garments that we get. So we get this shirt in, production's looking at it, trying to figure out how they're going to possibly print this garment, and the customer is just expecting that it's going to look awesome when they get it, right? And customer service is sitting at production, like looking at production, saying production's stupid and incompetent because, they think that you should just be able to print the logo on the shirt, right? So then we spend 4.5 days in production trying to figure out how to print 12 shirts, and we lose a ton of money. We give it to the customer hates it. The customer goes on Yelp and reviews a bad restaurant, and then after that they jump over to Google and give you a 1-star review because you're an incompetent printer. Are you incompetent printers? Some of you guys are. But a lot of you are not incompetent printers. You're actually very good at what you do. But you look incompetent when you let this process downward spiral. Anybody can print white ink on a black t-shirt, but can you print white ink on a cat? And most of the shirts we print on now are just like feral cats. So Rick, have you ever had a problem where an order came into customer service and it got printed incorrectly?
Never.
Okay, I didn't think so. Actually, Rick has
well, it is. It is a point. Actually, it's not just the shirts; it's also the art. Especially regular customers, the more you can get them to let you in on the process from the beginning, usually you can hook them by saying it'll be cheaper. But it'll be cheaper, faster, better if you design a shirt from the start. So if a t-shirt designer actually designs a shirt, it might be printable and get a great result and be cheaper to do. Whereas a lot of times, I don't know, in fact, the higher priced designers you get, usually the worse it is. They come in and they show you something that goes up over the shoulder and think it's really creative when it's really just stupid and ignorant. And they always, or they have art that's for advertisements and brochures and this and that, and they want to put it on a shirt, and it's ugly and unprintable a lot of times. So the earlier in the process you can get people, the better the results are going to be.
My favorite problem is whenever someone does a branding project and they don't send you the branding guidelines, and they go have their sign made from this print shop down the street that does digital printing on signs, and that they get the color wrong, and then you try to print the exact same artwork, but you're screen printing it, whereas they're printing it CMYK, right? And then your colors are wrong, and whose colors were wrong? It's like, we didn't set the customer's expectation to say, hey, this was going to be exactly these Pantones. What is your branding guideline? We print for customers all the time that we have these clients that we've been printing for 8 years. And then today we print something for them and we print the wrong color on their logo. Like, we should have known. We should know their branding guidelines. We should know how to make their brand look really good. And I think it all kind of culminates at the end here when we screw up everybody's t-shirts and we look like we don't know how to print because, we don't. But then what do, right? Like, you have an opportunity to say, hey, you know what? I think this is what we could have done to do this better, or we could make a really great print for you if we went this direction. But once everything's been screwed up, I mean, you can't Control Z a T-shirt, right? Or Command Z, depending on if you're a PC or Apple person, right? So I wish you could, but like at the very end of the process, when the customer's like super pissed off, like what do you do? I mean, like people are inherently negative. Like that's why you're frowning at me right now. But people love being negative, right?
Well, wait, let me just intercede here. He used to be a cable guy, so that's why he thinks this.
Yeah. Before screen printing happened to me, I installed cable for Comcast, right? It was a really rewarding experience. I climbed 30-foot tall telephone poles in snowstorms and stuff. It was awesome. And one time a customer was really mad about his cable bill, and he wanted me to fix it. And I don't know how to have nothing to do with billing, right? And so I'm like, man, you got to call Comcast. I can't do anything. And he slammed his front door and locked it and told me to sit down, to which I said something profane. And I opened the door and I walked out the front door and he jumped on my back and tried to tackle me, right? And so I'm like, crap, what do I do? And we had those Nextel radios, so I'm like Nextel radioing my boss, like, this guy's attacking me. And he's like, call the cops. So I like take off running through the front yard and there was like a picket fence and I like hurdle the picket fence and I jump in my truck and then the customer jumped in the passenger side of my truck. And I'm like, what the hell do I do in this situation? So we have to figure out how to make customers happy after they've been upset.
Animal tranquilizers, man.
So animal tranquilizers are the best way to do it. But the cops asked if I wanted to press charges, and I was like, are you serious? Don't even ask. Press the charges. I don't even know what that means. But if you screw up someone's t-shirts, you have a responsibility, right, for your company to make it better somehow. And or else people are going to be mad and they're going to talk crap about you, and all of a sudden all your Google reviews are like, these guys are a bunch of idiots, and that looks bad. And so there's a book out there called Hug Your Haters, written by a guy named Jay Baer, but basically talking about the art of customer service after things have gone wrong. It's that like responding to people and loving on them and saying, I'm sorry. It's like what you do when with your wife after you stay out drinking all night and you're supposed to be home at 8 o'clock, right? You have to fix the situation. Your customers are just like your spouse. But not exactly.
I don't see a lot of nodding heads, Brett.
But anyways, Rick has a really good story about a bunch of t-shirts getting screwed up, and I want him to tell the story about the screwed up t-shirts, whether it was their fault or not, and what they did to fix the problem. Sam Alex one?
Yeah. So one of my customers actually went through about 8 iterations of artwork that they kept sending us, and then there was one more thing to be fixed. They asked if we could fix it. We didn't have the logo required. We said, no, you fix it. They fixed it, but when they fixed it, they took a version that was like 6 versions earlier and added it. And it passed through our system. They signed off on the printed sample. We printed about 20,000 of them, and then they said, oh, wait a minute, this is the wrong version. At which point they said, oh, we're sorry, it's our fault. But about a day later, when the person we were dealing with talked to her boss, it was like, yeah, but you should have caught it. So we had a situation where there were 20,000 shirts printed wrong, and somebody was going to have to pay for that, and it ended up us. Because it didn't matter if there was their problem and their fault, because I never would have printed for them again. And I've been printing for this company, and it's huge, for 25 years almost. And we kind of did the calculation. It was like, we're just going to have to say it's our fault, even though it isn't. But all's well that ends well, because we said we would pay them, I think it was, the cost was actually $30,000 total, but we said we'll pay you over time. So we took $5,000 off one bill, and then they didn't do any work for a while, and then we forgot about it, and then they forgot about it, and then it all got forgotten. and we only paid 5. So it kind of worked out lucky. But you have to make that calculation. I mean, a lot of times you are not at fault, but you're going to get blamed. I mean, I tell the people at my shop, you know, if you print a shirt, it comes out ugly, even if it matched like what they gave you, you probably should take a photo at that point and send it to them, because they'll think of something else and they'll say it's a 1/4 inch too low, or one of them is crooked or something, because when that person that ordered it showed it to their boss and they go, this is god awful ugly, you're still going to get blamed somehow. So at every point you want feedback loops and to cover yourself, and you'll still get blamed sometimes. We do a lot with mock-ups, we do a lot with photos. You got to get good at photography. You know, take a close-up, take a picture of it on somebody, take a picture under the right lighting so that the customer sees it and signs off for it. And then we say, I don't know, we have some verbiage about the mock-up, like if you're looking at it on a phone, you're an idiot. Like, you know what I mean? Someone's looking at on their phone and they're going to say, oh, can you make that a 1/4 inch lower? 1/4 inch lower, that's like a pixel, you know, like on their phone. So you got to, I mean, we had our friend Jacob Edwards talk yesterday. Their company are masters of telling you all the things that can go wrong. You should look at their site. It's Jack Prints. So if you want like sublimation, you're going to get those weird white lines here. They got pictures of that, so you know everything that could go wrong, and it's sort of their fault if they go ahead. However, I will say it depends on what kind of company you want to have, right? He has the kind of company where he's like, well, we told you it would have white marks on the sublimation, and you don't like it, but we told you, so pay up, or, you know, we'll take you to court. And that could be the end of that customer. I can't do that with my giant beer company customer. I'm going to get blamed in the end, no matter how many things I tell them.
Yeah, so this is certainly a conundrum there, but I think kind of going back to, like, I walk through the shop all the time, and I just love seeing everything that we're doing, how we're doing it, how we can improve on it. But we've kind of coined this saying, like, if you see something, say something. Like, if anybody at any time is a quality control person at the shop, right? You walk through the shop and you see something that looks ugly, stop the press, right? If you don't have a little bit of a photo studio in your shop, you should, so that you can take a really good picture with good color balance and send it to that customer and say, hey, this is what your shirt looks like. Are you sure? Right? Are you sure you want to do this? Here's some advice. This is what we would do. Because remember, if we can design beautiful shirts, the customer's going to sell more. And when they sell more shirts, they're going to buy more shirts from you, right? So us creating success for our customers is also creating success for us. So if we can start at the very beginning, guide that process, tell them, like, this is our recommendation, these are the things we think you guys should do with this design or this shirt or whatever, you're going to end up with a happier customer that orders more products, and they're probably going to talk about it to other people that want to be happy too.
The only other thing I'm going to add is learn to say no. You know, when somebody brings you something and you can figure it out, doesn't mean you should figure it out. So don't take what I call arts and crafts projects on unless you really like arts and crafts. It's not business. So if you print t-shirts and you're going to suddenly, for one customer, figure out sublimation, you got to really decide if you want to do that. You really want the one customer in 5 years that wants flock and you're going to figure out flock, either sub it out or don't do it. And because it is not a way to make money.
There's nothing quite like working for free at 3 a.m. and being super pissed off, you know?
Back to being a cable guy.
Yeah. So much anger in there.
Any questions about customer service related things that you're dealing with? Most of you printers, embroiderers, printers. I mean, one thing that happens out here is there's a lot of people that will sell you a system that will work. You know, I just say beware. You know, the system isn't going to fix everything. You know, most of it's going to be your training of your people, attitude that you have, how you treat your customers, the relationship you have with your customers. It's not going to be all fixed by, I'm not going to say, any of those people in the other room. What's the question, man?
Do you guys have any sort of research
Do
Actually,
we
I would-
have resources to provide our customers,
Actually,
our customer service people?
I don't think he has a problem with it. Jack Prints, J-A-K P-R-I-N-T-S. It's a great place to get your business. I get cool business cards from them, right? See those? Those are cool, right? But besides that, for all their garment printing processes, they have all kinds of little videos about and pictures. Like I was saying, like if you want sublimation of a finished garment, you're going to get these white marks, and there's a lot of stuff in there. You can show it to your customer. I'm trying to think what else.
I think one big thing is like every time you do something new, write it down. Like, when that customer calls and they want to print on that whatever shirt, and you look and you're like, oh, sweet, we get to print more polyviscose shirts, right? And you have to figure out how to print it whenever you're printing it the first time. Write down what you did and make sure that customer service is always involved with production. Because if they have no idea what it's like to print a t-shirt, in my opinion, our customer service people should know how to print a t-shirt, or else they don't know how to talk to the customer. So send your customer service people to education classes, like the screen printing 101 classes, But then document all those processes. Every time you do something new, write it down and make a book. We've got like a 10-page training manual for customer service people that we wrote on our own. And it has all kinds of, not just about printing, but about artwork, right? Like, you can't polish a turd, you just get poop on your hands. So like if someone sends you a bunch of really bad artwork, like...
You're not going to get asked back.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going for.
I think you want as many feedback loops in your process as possible. So even though the customer may send you a mock-up, we always send back our mock-up to make sure that there's not been a problem with the art file and that make sure it looks right, and then they sign off on that. And then we do a lot of photography, like I said. And when you do that, make sure you have a person wearing it, you have it in the right light, etc. Tom, who's the other guy from the In Kitchen, who's over there in front of the white sign, his place has a process of sending out all the information about the order that the customer signs off on, so you make sure you're on the same page about the delivery time, etc. You want to be very specific about your terms. Don't interchange them. You know what I mean? Is it, when do you need it in your hands? Oh, Friday, right? Friday, what time, right? You send a UPS, it might get there at 7 o'clock, and the event's at 5 o'clock. I've had that happen. You got to be very specific about the information. And I'm sorry, no matter what your system, you got to have people that are smart enough to think through these things. You can't have all the variables, especially if you're a custom screen printer. It's not possible.
One time I shipped 3 pallets of shirts to Boston, and FedEx Freight decided they weren't going to deliver them because it was snowing. So I called Rick, who lives in Boston, and said, is it snowing? And he said, kinda. And I said, can you get 3 pallets of shirts from the FedEx facility to a hotel in downtown Boston? And he made it happen. That was neat. I would have lost like $30,000 that day.
Other questions or other problems you find with customer service? Actually, I got a good one. Don't let the customer get the ruler out. We say, once the ruler's out, you're done for. Don't throw in crappy shirts and think that you're going to hide them, because when they find the crooked one, they're going to look at all of them. And this is like people printing shirts made by people, so they're not like pieces of metal that are perfect. So once they get the ruler out, you're screwed. So don't put in any bad shirts. It's so tempting to do it. Don't do it. Own up on it and don't go there. The other thing I would say is, when you work out a problem, you'll have a customer for life a lot of times. As hard as it is, I usually go overboard in making them happy, and a lot of times they'll be super loyal, because there's always going to be problems. You can never do everything perfectly, so how you resolve that kind of situation are going to be with your very, very best customers. You're going to have to resolve some crap that you go through. Other questions?
Share a story about when you had the front line customer you were talking about.
Ooh, yeah.
When you decided it's time to cut.
So I have a good one. had this customer for years, and actually, this is related to you somewhat. So like when did we meet? Like 5-6 years ago. We were here at this trade show, and right before the trade show, I was making some hats for a customer, and he was upset about the way they looked. So I was like, hey, I'm going out of town for a week, but when I get back, I'll personally work on this project for you. So it's going to take a little bit longer because I want to be the one to do it. And so we come to the trade show, fly home from the trade show, get a stomach ache. Turns out, and then Rick comes to town, and we hang out for the day, and my stomach still hurt very badly, and my wife thought that I was constipated. Turns out I had appendicitis, and so they had to take my appendix out. And so I was out of work for another week. So dude knows that 'cause we're like Facebook friends, and he shows up the day that he knows that I go back to work, and he's like being a huge a-hole to like all of our people that work for us. And it made me frustrated. So I walked into the office and I said, hey man, we're just not gonna do the work for you. And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, if you're gonna act like this, knowing what knowing what I've been through over the last week, I'm not gonna do the work for you. And he's like, kind of bowed up on me, and I said, get the F out of my office. And that's the last time I ever talked to him.
This is not a model of behavior every day, though, right?
No, that's abnormal. I'm usually pretty nice on most occasions. But I think the reality is, like, listen, like, you can only bend so far backwards, and you only have so much capacity, and like, make sure you're bending backwards for the right people, right? Like, there's no point in doing work with people that don't want to do work. Like, if they're acting like a jerk to you, they don't want to do work with you, so why are they doing work with you? You certainly don't do work for them. That's called modern day slavery, right? Just being miserable. No one wants to be miserable. Who woke up this morning and said, you know what? I want to be miserable today. Who woke up this morning thinking, I feel really miserable right now? But that's the reality. And then that's another big part of customer service. Like, you want to be able to be a servant to your customer, but you can't serve people that you don't get along with, right? And if you just don't get along, break it up. Break up the marriage. Don't be married to that customer anymore. They should no longer be your spouse. Full circle.
More questions? Most people cannot eat 30 grand. If you can't eat 30 grand, don't take an order that you can't eat 30 grand.
Correct. But over the mark to get things signed off, and like what we do on the street bring our large quantity, over 500. We get them to sign off for the actual garment, the actual thread count, the actual sew out. And then at the end, if it's exactly the way they sign off on it, and then they realize they screwed up, that's a tough one to.
Yeah, so the question is, if you get a sew out, I guess embroidery and or screen printing, and you get the person to actually sign off for it. I mean, we actually have them sign a shirt that they send back to us a lot of times if it's a lot of shirts. And so if you do all that and then it still goes wrong, what happens? You know, that's a life question more than a customer service question. I mean, there's a legal answer to that. The legal answer is not usually a very good answer. That's usually a really bad answer. It's usually expensive. It involves jerks, and it involves ending the relationship with the person. Lawyers rarely bring people together. So that's a last resort. So you got to think of everything before that. You want to avoid those situations by managing expectations, and you want to try to resolve things in a way that's good for everybody. And usually that means taking it in the shorts a little bit, you know? So maybe it's their fault, but, you know, maybe you embroider it for them and they pay for the garments. You know, then it gets into a negotiation, and it's almost all it's a negotiation. If you're looking for a magic bullet, I mean, Facebook groups of screen printers seem full of that stuff. Well, you just blah, blah, blah. Yeah, you just blah, blah, blah. You're full of it. Like, that is a really poor way to manage your customers. They're usually the people actually that say that are on Facebook all the time because they don't have any customers. They're on Facebook all the time. So I don't think that having rigid rules is a good way to grow your business. It's not really going to work. It's very enticing, I think, to a lot of people. Well, we'll make this rule, we'll make this, we'll make them sign that. Yeah, right. Then what? A lot of court cases and a lot of pissed off customers. That doesn't really work very well. You kind of have to negotiate with people.
And I think
Go ahead, you got a follow-up?
You kind of look at it as an investment as well, right? Like you're investing into the relationship with this customer. And what you said right before that is don't take a job that you can't afford to fix, right? You get those dollar signs in your eyes when someone brings in that 100,000 piece order, but you got to be thinking about your exit strategy, your recovery strategy if something goes wrong. Like you always have to be ready to make that investment.
Actually, I turn that on customers sometimes, so they'll be like, well, I can get this done for 25 cents. Well, all right, go ahead. Like, what's going to happen to your garments when they screw them up, or what happens when they go out of business and their garments are in their facility? You can't print for 25 cents and make money. Go ahead, go. Yeah, that works with a lot of people, not everyone, but so he said that his mentor said that go to the customer, what would make this right? Like, what do you want to do? Yeah, that works a lot of times.
And when you have that partnership with a customer, like you have favor with them, right? Like if you take really good care of your customers, like you do good work for them, deliver great products with them, you kind of create that partnership because you want their business to be successful, that's going to come back around. Like that's the karma game, right? Like when something goes wrong, whether they decide they're going to drop the hammer on you or not,
More questions, comments? Time's up.
Nice watch, man.
All right. Anyway, thank you for coming. We have a couple more talks today and tomorrow. And if you got ideas for talks in the future, the show has been really gracious about that. We'll be at Atlantic City. We'll be at Fort Worth, where he's from. Talk to me or Tom or Pam. We're the main Ink Kitchen folks, and we will try to get speakers that you want to, things you want to hear. All right, thanks.